Hello everyone, welcome to this training video for the Ender 5 extruder. So just to start off with first, the setup and assembly. Just zoom in here a little bit. This is the Felfil extruder itself, and this is how it's assembled. Refer to the SOP for assembly. There's a schematic on it that shows you how to set everything up. And right now we're in the 516 fume hood. Depending on the availability, you should work in 524 or 516. Make sure the fume hood you're working on is clean and it's good to go. So just listing the parts that we have present here. We have the external heater, which is connected right here. These three are the heater blocks. And here is the thermistor from the external heater, taped on with heat resistant tape. This thermistor over here is attached to the 3D printer. And back here is the external DC motor controller, and hooked up to here are the wires. So make sure this is in the right orientation, because the green one should be in the front, this one should be here, and this causes the extruder screw to spin counterclockwise. And once that's all set up, just make sure things are plugged in here. You can plug in the 3D printer and the external DC motor to the fume hood. Just for safety, make sure the external temperature controller, make sure to set this one up to a wall outlet, just in case there's shortages. We don't want the whole fume hood to fuse out. And in terms of PPE you will be needing for this experiment, we have heat resistant gloves right here. Wear these whenever you're trying to operate the external temperature controller. And as well as when you're about to begin extrusion, please use a face shield to cover up, just for safety reasons. So the next step here, after everything is assembled and you have all the protective PPE, is to use the external temperature controller and set the temperature that you need for your pellets. So what we're going to start off with is just 60 degrees, just because it's just safe, and we're going to see how the thermistor reacts to it so we don't overheat anything. So to use this, we just come over here, we press this button on the far left, and this brings up this menu, and this is for the temperature, so we can navigate this and increase this. This is in degrees, and we've set that at 60 degrees, and press this button. And up here, this is the thermistor response, which is connected here. So when this detects, this is the temperature at this 27 degrees right now is what the thermistor is reading, and this is what the temperature is set to. So give it like around 4 or 5 minutes to heat up, and make sure to use the IR camera and measure the temperature of this heater barrel here, as very important. Make sure it doesn't exceed temperatures of over 300 degrees or anything unsafe like that. We want to make sure that it's stable and controlled. Alright, just zoom into this. As you can see with the IR camera, it's reading temperatures of around 50, 55, 54 degrees. And if you look at the external heater thermistor, it's also reading similar values of 58 degrees, which is on par. And if you also take a look at this screen, this is a 3D printer. And this 53 degrees is this thermistor over here, and this is also needed because if this temperature doesn't go above 100 degrees, you can't start your 3D print. So make sure to have both thermistors attached. Make sure they're reading around the same value, and that's how you know that you're successful in your assembly. So the next step is, now that it's reached 60 degrees, increment it by 30 degrees to reach your desired temperature. So for us, we want to reach 180 degrees. So right now what I'm going to do is increase it to 90. So same thing here, you press this very left button, you go scroll over here, increase it to 90, and now it's set to 90. It's going to keep going up. Make sure to have your IR camera with you and monitor the temperatures at all time. Make sure that they're within a safe limit. So you just want to zoom in. So as we can see here, that's around 70 degrees. It's heating up, as well as the heater blocks. So just make sure to keep an eye on this and make sure everything's working fine. So looking at this now, we're at our desired temperature of 180. The thermistor reading says 185, which is okay. It's overshooting a little bit, but it will drop back down to 180 and even out. So after this, we're ready now to extrude. So make sure to have your face shield on and your heat gloves with you. And what we're trying to extrude today is polyethylene. So these are polyethylene pellets. Take a look in there. So we're going to use these today, and to get started, we have the DC motor controller. DC motor controller. We power it on using the green button. And slowly increase the RPM using this. And just go up to around 60 to 70 degrees, or sorry, 60 to 70% on the controller. And as you can see now, it is extruding counterclockwise, which is what we want. And while this is going on, you can start feeding in pellets. Right now, this is an open enclosure. We don't have a hopper set up yet, but once we have a hopper, it'll be much easier. But for now, what we're going to do is we're going to grab the pellets and use a spatula, and we're going to insert it into there. Right now, as you can see, that there is filament coming out of this side. And when this happens, you're now ready to print your G-code file. So just take out the extra strands that you don't want. And before you start printing your G-code, make sure you set this to 0. This is now set to 0, and now we're ready to extrude because we know filament is going to come out of the other side. So now when you're ready, to print your G-code, you go to the prompt, go all the way down to print from media, and here from your SD card that you insert, you should have different options for the G-code. Just press one of these and start the print, and that's the next step. And as you can see here, we're in the middle of the print, and it's printing fine. And just if you look up here, we're feeding the pellet slowly, and it's doing its thing. And just make sure to monitor this, make sure nothing unusual is happening, and after the print, make sure everything is fine. Alright, so as you can see here, our print or whatever is left of it is finished. So now what we're going to do to disassemble everything, the first step is going to be to turn off this heater, and make sure before you unplug it to set it to 0, just so when you use it the next time, it's at 0 and it's safe for the next person to use. So to set it to 0, same thing, press this button over here, and you come down to this one, and then put that to 0, and then you come here, decrease it all the way down to 0, and now it's at 0, it's going to slowly start going down, the thermistor reading should go down, and then after that, the next step would be to here. And now, what you can simply do is just disconnect the external DC motor controller, and then you can turn off the 3D printer here, and after you turn that off, just take this plug out, and now officially everything is turned off. We're going to wait for this to cool down, and make sure to not touch the printer at all, because right now it's still very hot. Give it about 10-15 minutes, use the IR camera, and after the IR camera you see readings of around 50 to 40 degrees. That's when it's safe to dismantle everything, and once that happens, you're good to disassemble everything.